Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, councillors. Thank you for coming to this special extra meeting. I think there's been a request, so we're suspending standing orders. So
not suspending all.
No, we're not suspending all of them. Just allowing them to. You don't have to stand up, basically. Right. Thank you. We're not doing public speakers, are we? We don't have
there isn't anyone here, Your Worship, and there isn't anyone registered to speak.
Brilliant. So let's go straight to number 1 to receive apologies of absence.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've had apologies from Councillor Manning and Councillor Osborne owing to personal commitments, and Councillor Roni Dougal is unfortunately unwell.
Yeah, no, I saw.
And Mike is away.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 2, declarations of interest, please. Don't know about that. Mainly, yeah, on the financial. No, none? No. None, thank you, Connor. Right, if we could go to the minutes, please. Has everyone got? Perfect, so page 10. Page 11. Can I just note on point 32, the neighbourhood police team, did we again ask for a breakdown? We did, of the statistics.
Yes, I mentioned it to the sergeant. He gave me the same answer again. That's how they report nationally. But I believe he's going to give a more detailed picture to the Town Centre Crime Reduction Advisory Committee.
Can't wait. Thank you very much. Brilliant. So carrying on, page 11. $14. 15.
Just one point on page 15.
Yes.
Third one down. The climate emergency resilience officer with the press release. Did that happen? About the town council's carbon footprint?
Sorry, Councillor White, was that a query for me? Sorry.
Page 15.
Yep.
Third subparagraph. It was agreed climate emergency resilience officer is to work with the town clerk on a press release about town council carbon footprint.
Yes, so Melissa has drafted one. I have approved the draft. Okay. We are just going to take some pictures to issue with it and then issue it shortly.
Thank you.
Brilliant. And page 16.
Similar on item 46, the Glastonbury and Bloom judges press release or news release.
I made the clerk of Glastonbury and Bloom aware of that. I'm not 100% sure if it's already been issued, but I can check that.
Brilliant. Thank you. Any more comments?
Just ask a quick question. The Glastonbury and Bloom Best Garden thing's still going ahead, is that?
Are you registering, councillor?
Actually, on that subject, Your Worship, I haven't brought them in with me. However, the clerk of the Glastonbury and Bloom Committee has given me a bunch of entry forms.
Perfect.
If anyone around the table wishes to either take an entry form for themselves or for their neighbours or for some friends, I will collect them as soon as the meeting ends from my office, and anyone can take a handful if they wish. Yes, please.
Fabulous. What was the date? Yes, Councillor Price.
I just wondered whether we had appointed to the role of visitor attraction manager at all.
Yes, do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, we have appointed a lady called Catherine Trout.
Catherine Turp is the lady's name. We were very impressed as the interview panel when she came to interview, both in terms of her experience and her sort of personality and presence. She is currently in a role with the National Trust, based just outside of Bristol. She's looking after Tintsfield and another one of their Bristol properties. She's previously done a more front of house role at Bristol's M Shed, which is like an industrial museum in Bristol. And we were very impressed with, as I say, her knowledge, skills and experience, and we felt like she would be an excellent person, the right person for that role. So we're very excited. She's planning to start with us on the 31st of July.
Yeah, I met her in the office
Excellent.
when she came for the interview.
Very nice. And what we're going to do as well, we're going to gather up all both the volunteers and the paid staff. And Connor's going to arrange a meeting so that we can explain what's going to happen, and she's going to be there. So they'll be able to see her. So everybody's singing off the same hymn sheet. There's no Chinese whispers. They're all there together. And I think that's the best way.
Members of the staffing committee and Connor and anybody else who took part in that.
Thank you. If that's all with the minutes. Do that before I lose it.
Your Worship.
Perfect. Okay, so item 4 on the agenda, to receive an income and expenditure outcome and balance sheet for 22-23. Has everyone got? Perfect. Thank you.
I suppose if we look at the summary, which is page 4, it looks like there's front page like that. Not that.
There you go.
So if we look at the income, income was higher than last year, but that's mainly because we received more grants. So we had a grant from Mendip District Council for the basketball courts up at Abbey Park, and also a grant for the town deal expenses relating to St Dunstan House. So that's why we're up on the grants. We also had a higher income on the car park, which you can see. So it's up from last year, and also the town hall lettings, but that's partly attributable to COVID, because obviously the previous year we didn't have as many lettings.
Oh, right.
So we had an increase this year. So that explains that. I don't know if you've got any questions about the income at all.
Any questions from the table? I've got one. I suppose if it was last year, so is the car park attributed to COVID as well as to why that's gone up this year? Do we know why it's gone up?
part of it could be that we cut the season ticket holders.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So then we had more of a turnover for those spaces. So that could be, because we didn't increase the charges last year. It was this year that we increased it.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
So yeah, it could have been a bit of COVID.
Yeah, because initially in
Something else.
Initially in the budget, we were budgeting £120,000 of income.
Yeah.
Then during the budget setting process, we revised that projection down because it wasn't showing that we were going to make that at that point. So we revised it down to 117. But then actually toward year end, it came in at, was it 144? 146. Which is above, it was forecasted to be 100, 120.
Wow.
So yes, it probably is partly due to, if you remember, the decision that you took quite a while ago to stop renewing season tickets, and probably also perhaps good weather factored into that. Perhaps we had quite mild weather.
Early Easter as well. Early Easter holidays.
Perhaps.
But anyway, we had an increase, which is good. So that did help with, well, if we go into expenditure.
I just ask a question about the
Yep.
car park. Do you still believe we are losing a lot of money in the car park with non-payers?
I believe we're not generating as much money as we could be rather than losing money, yes. Les has taken obviously it's only a snapshot, but he's very diligently, bless him, kept a tally of when he has noticed people not paying in the car park. And there is a very clear trend over the last few years that non-payment is increasing. And in fact, for this calendar year, because I believe he does it in calendar years, he has already surpassed the number of non-payers, and we're halfway through the year that he noted last year. So yes, I believe the car park could be a lot more efficient. Charges have gone up for this year, which will help that figure even if we do nothing. But at some point, what will happen is the income will reach a peak, more and more people will stop paying, and then the income will start to decline because there's only so many cars and so much turnover you can have in that car park. So yes, the car park could still be much more efficient. So I haven't, off the top of my head, I haven't yet done it, but I can. So in the year previous, each car parking space was worth to the town council about £1,666. If I do £146,084 divided by, I think it's 72 spaces in that car park. My projection when we stopped renewing season tickets was that each space would then be worth about £2,000, and actually £2,028.94. So that's how much income each space nets at the moment. But I think it could be much more efficient if we can either, I have had a bit of news on car park enforcement, but if we can do something, then it could be a lot more efficient.
Just one point on that. I went round with Les one day and there were 14 with no tickets, you know, so that was just in a snapshot round about midday on this particular day.
Yes.
We've discussed a number of options for that, haven't we? When will we be talking about that again?
So the option that's progressing, that's been agreed, is to control the access and exit. So we've had a survey done. We've appointed a specialist to look at doing enough information for a pre-planning application. And then we will get the comments of the conservation officers and the planners, what they like and what they don't like before any planning application. But I also put the query back to Somerset Council of why their enforcement officers couldn't come in and enforce our car park while they were in the town anyway. And I've gleaned a bit more information from them why that's not the case. They had previously advised that we needed to alter the layout of the car park. So St Dunstan's is a very cosy car park. It doesn't really meet the standards if you were to design a car park today, because a lot of the they're not aisles, but the little roads between where all the cars park, the standard is they need to be 6 metres wide. They are not 6 metres wide in St Dunstan's car park, and also I think the spaces are probably quite thin as well. So what I've asked for is more information from Somerset Council, exactly what changes would potentially need to be made, and then what I will need to look at and bring back to you guys, or the Property and Assets Committee rather, is if they are recommending a new layout and you lose half of your spaces, is it more financially advantageous to spend an amount of money, £60,000 or so, on controlling access and exit, or is it more financially viable to reduce the number of spaces by however many and get a parking enforcement officer to come in and add the car park to the existing parking order? I strongly suspect it's more financially viable for us to control the access and exit and retain as many spaces as we can, and that's also of benefit to the town because we're already struggling for parking. If we lose 30 spaces there, Norbins Road car park's going to get built on. That's, 40, 50 odd spaces from the centre of town gone. But once I receive the information from Somerset Council exactly what would need to be changed, we can take a view on what the best option is. But both are running in tandem to try and make it as quick as possible, because it already, on the timetable I had in my head, it has slipped because the coronation or organisation of all of that got in the way of what I was hoping to be a pre-application back in January. But we're working very hard to try and do it as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Connor. Really appreciate that. Any more questions from the table? On the income. Do you want to go on to expenditure?
Oh, right, yes, expenditure. Well, as I say, obviously it's increased, but that's probably attributed to, when it says general administration, that's going to be staff costs, which we had quite an increase staff expenditure because we had to backdate.
Because we pay according to the Green Book, is called, the National Joint Council. They nationally agree terms and conditions and pay annually. We are then subject to that agreement, so it's negotiated on town and parish council's behalf, and then it's their job to implement that. I don't know off the top of my head what percentage was budgeted for, but the percentage average increase on staff costs, which we had to pay and backdate, ended up being 7%.
It definitely wasn't budgeted for. It was
No.
budgeted 3%.
Yeah, so that was higher than expected because obviously the cost of living crisis changed their negotiations and then what was agreed nationally for town and parish council. So that was the increase on that point of view. It was less than it would have otherwise been had we still had another member of staff which had been in the budget. But what had been done was the staffing committee had done an appraisal of roles and responsibilities and had used some of that money from the member of staff who retired early to make sure that everyone was fairly compensated for what roles they actually performed and what responsibilities they had. So that's why overall it did end up being an increase, but it wasn't as much as it potentially could have been.
Thank you. Yes, I remember that. Can I? So the town hall, where it says running costs of the town hall. Apologies if this is where we had to put in for the new boiler and stuff. Is this where that is? Because it's incredibly high. I thought it might include staff costs, but it doesn't.
That includes that's general administration. Sorry, I should have made it clear. And the admin staff, the general admin. That's
Okay.
town hall staff and running costs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's.
I mean, maybe I should have split that out so you could see that. But that explains that.
Okay. Well, it is what runs the town hall, isn't
Sorry
it?
about that.
Yes, on the budget monitoring report and in the budget,
Yeah.
it's all listed separately.
Thank
but
you.
for the sake of this summary sheet,
Yep,
they
no,
do get
that's-
lumped in together.
That's fine. That's what I thought it was, but then when I saw the general administration, was some of that capital because of say the boiler and things we had to put in? I'm just the incomings and outgoings. I know it's just we were trying to bring down the town hall costs. We were trying to bring down the town hall costs. So,
Which bit? Sorry, where are you looking?
sorry, still at the running costs of the town hall.
Yeah.
241,000 as
Oh, right,
opposed
yes,
to what
yes,
it
does
brings in.
include that. Yeah, I think, I mean,
Great.
yeah,
Good, Ed.
premises maintenance was huge.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, but I believe that authorities at our level, we don't have to account separately for revenue and capital. High tier authorities, they have a revenue account and a capital account. We, councils at our level, don't have to account in that same way. So yes, that's a combination of capital costs, say, for the boiler
Brilliant.
and for the repair to the lift, but also revenue costs, so town hall maintenance, general staff costs, etc. We at this level don't have to split them out.
No, that's really fine. That's great to know. Yes, Councillor White.
If you have a look on
sorry.
page 10,
Yeah.
that might make it a bit clearer.
Lovely.
Because you've got a breakdown which says premises maintenance general, so you've got 78,000, and that includes the boiler
Perfect. Thank
and
you.
other essential maintenance, which I think it's electrical
And
work.
wages.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Normally there's, I think, if you look at town hall, there's maintenance general. Did there used to be?
Yeah, we just lumped it together.
Right, that's fine.
Yeah, but if you look at previous year, it's 22,000, so quite a lot of work was done.
Yeah. And that was a combination of the repair to the lift and the works to the boiler.
Exactly. Yep, two massive costs. Thank you. Yes, Councillor White.
Page 4, expenditure running costs allotments, 3622 in 2022 and 452 in 2023. Page 4,
Yeah.
under expenditure, allotments, where the running costs are, is about 5 sentences down.
Running costs.
Of the allotments.
Allotments.
Yeah.
So 2022, 3622 and 2023, 452.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I'm not sure what that is, but obviously there was some work done on.
There was work done.
Which, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember Mike Smythe actually saying about, was it gravel and fences?
Okay.
I'll check that and let you know.
Yeah, thanks, Jane.
Perfect. Thank you. Any more? Yes.
Yeah, Jane, what was civic regalia? Gone up from 447 to 4545. So page 11, financial assistance.
I would think.
Go from the bottom. Yeah, page 11 of expenditure.
Oh, what happened? Sorry, I believe maybe the copy that Councillor Cook has, the page numbers went wrong when I changed something. I believe.
I was going to say, I can't see it.
What you'll probably find is you'll have 3 page 7s and 3 page 11s, is I think what
Excellent. Yeah, I did.
it's actually on page 9.
Regalia.
The financial
I
assistance.
think,
It's on page 11.
well,
Might be for you.
obviously, I think in that
No, I
financial
think
year,
you've got
there
a
was
different-
purchase of the chain.
That was the new mayoral chain that was partly crowd-funded, but
Yeah.
Yeah, page 9.
it came through the account.
I
But
don't know, Councillor Cook, I can check that and have a look for you, but the majority of that, I think, was the chain.
yeah,
But then there was some income that, to offset that.
offset that, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe that we had all the gowns cleaned as well, because they hadn't been cleaned for a number
And the
of years.
purchase of a hat, maybe?
Yes,
Oh,
I
yeah,
think there was
a new hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was mainly, well, it was renewing what we already had in terms of cleaning the robes, adding a new hat for whatever reason, whether it was a replacement or we needed a different size. But the vast majority of that was the new mayoral chain, but there was income to offset that because some of it was crowdfunded. I haven't had anything new. I've not had, I assure you, I've got an old wig,
Inherited.
an old gown. I had a pair of gloves. Nope, I didn't charge the town council for my shirt. I bought that myself. Well, maybe. Wasn't me.
Anyway, we'll check that and let you know.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I know it's there, but the other one was use provision. Gone up pretty.
Where are you looking?
This,
7,000 to.
well, on me, it's
62,000.
page 9, so I don't know what page it is for you.
Yeah,
Under financial assistance.
That way you
Anyone.
counted for the
Page is the civic regalia.
for the basketball court. Yeah.
That includes, oh, sorry.
Sorry, that councillor Cook, that includes the money spent on youth provision, but also because it was the youth provision committee's project, the new basketball netball practice court on Abbey Park. That's where that's what the increase. That's where that money's been, the grant's been accounted for.
The grant was,
The grant on another line, money's come in. On that line, the money's gone out.
They're loving it up there.
Sorry.
They're loving it.
Yeah, they are.
Brilliant, absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant. There's one guy I did ask first off when it was first done, and he was all, oh, well, you know, you've got an edge there, that's dangerous, you know, it's going to get muddy and people are going to fall over. And that's the first guy I asked. And
Yeah.
no bad luck. No, I've never seen him since, it's just full of others.
Actually using it and enjoying it.
Yeah, it's
God, yeah,
constantly
absolutely.
packed.
And
Sorry,
good
I'm just going to
feedback.
swap a chair.
You might get 2, 3, but it's, you know, pretty much all day there's somebody there.
People come in the high street and say they really.
Oh, I hate that.
Well done, you, for that.
Sorry, those chairs are hideous.
yeah, so that's that on the,
Thank you. Any other? Any other comments, please?
Page 108.
What?
I mean, I think the bottom line underlines the need we had to raise the precept. Because I think we lost 70 grand or so every year.
Unfortunately, yes. I mean, see,
yeah, we originally, what we thought, when we reassessed the budget, we thought there was going to be a brought forward or balance carried forward of 40,000. And actually in the end it was 70, so it was a little bit better.
but that's
still not enough.
no. So at the time with a precept of about £420,000, bringing forward only 70 of that, which is a lot less than is recommended. And I know that at the end of this financial year, we are forecasting to have at least a quarter of the precept in reserve, which is a comfortable amount, which would allow the town council either emergency expenditure, like if the lift goes again or if a boiler goes again. Touch wood, it doesn't, because it was a right headache. But if something like that happened, we wouldn't be in such a sticky situation as we were at the end of last year. So yeah, ultimately it does really highlight the town council didn't have a choice. It had emptied the coffers over a number of years, unfortunately, and it was very bad timing when the town councils had to
It's a lesson.
knock them. Yes.
So you cannot just say, oh, we want to please people by keeping the precept the same. It just doesn't work. Because everything goes up. Everything goes up for us as well. It doesn't go up. I know it doesn't seem fair to people, but you know, all our expenses have increased. Staff costs, all the utilities,
Exactly.
just everything. So it's just,
Well,
just
it'd be
life, really, isn't it?
Totally. It'd be amazing if we can. bring
Otherwise,
the
you pack up
costs.
and don't have a council. You know?
That's great. Well, we are trying to bring the cost down of the town hall. Yes.
We have a public meeting booked for that as well, don't we, to discuss the precept to explain.
Yes, on Friday, the 1st of September, off the top of my head, I think. So I'll be in touch with well, everyone to discuss what you'd like the format of that to be, because it's not a council meeting, it's a public meeting, so it follows a different format. We may wish to have councillors speaking, councillors giving presentations. You might want to, it's really probably for you guys to ask if you want any of the officers to give a presentation. It's not necessarily for us to force ourselves upon a public meeting. But I'll be in touch with everyone about the format of that, and if anyone's interested in almost forming a little working group of exactly what we want to present and how, I'll be in touch with everyone probably toward the end of July.
Yes, Councillor.
That we were going to distribute a leaflet to explain the reasons why, and unfortunately that didn't happen. So it
Strongly ask not to send it.
It's for next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
covering what was going to go into that leaflet, that may be a good basis for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a thorough decision-making process.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it'd be good for people to know exactly what happens as well and how much money comes in and what it's for. and actually what the breakdown is as well, you know. Yes,
Exactly why.
That's the one in September,
1st of September.
1st of September,
now,
yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, because there's quite a few after that.
Thank you. Any more revelations, questions? Yes, Councillor Dougal.
I'm curious to know what subscriptions we have.
Well, that's, we're members of Somerset Association of Local Councils, so that's the majority of that. Also, South West Councils, who are our employment advisors. So actually worth their weight in gold, actually.
They are. They're very cheap. They're very, for what they offer, they are very cheap. And also, I believe that covers, as the town clerk, my subscription to the Society of Local Council Clerks, which offer training and events, etc., etc. So I believe that's what comes under subscriptions.
Sorry. It's my page, oh, sorry.
So,
Yes,
sorry,
Councillor
just
White.
one more, card machine transaction fees, page 10.
Yeah.
So will we be paying more, or is that just more money coming in? It's 3,940.
Yeah. The more money, unfortunately, the more money you make, the
more you
higher
pay.
the fees are, and it's the credit card company.
No.
You've got to pay for the transaction fees and that's it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a minus of using cards. Yeah, but we can't do anything about it. That's the cheapest.
No, we're paying the industry standard rate, which I think we might be paying a little bit below. Off the top of my head, I think we pay 1.49%. Industry standard's probably about 1.6%, something along those lines. But it is a case of, you know, when you make more money, you have to pay more money on that one. But at the point when the works happen in the car park, obviously we'll be having new machines. We'll be going through the process of looking at card payment providers and seeing what transaction fees they charge at that point. But the rate we are paying it's a good rate. Just happens to be we make more money on the car park. A lot of people pay by card, and that costs us money in the transaction fees.
More people are paying by card.
Thank you. Councillor Much, then Councillor Price.
I thought it was time I said something stupid, but the 3,940 is just the fee we pay the credit card company for the year for the car park.
Well, it's not per transaction.
Yeah.
So there's every transaction they take a small percentage. Well, whatever it is.
Yeah.
How many percent is it, out of curiosity?
Off the top of my head, I think the fee that our card payment provider charges us, I think is about 1.45 or 1.49%. It's 1 point something. Industry standard's about 1.6.
Right.
Trade-off is that you get more custom.
Oh yes.
That's the thing.
And ultimately,
Pay for the privilege.
the card payment providers have to pay for all the infrastructure and the servers and this, that, the next thing to offer card payments. And for those who choose to make a card payment, for those for whom it is more convenient, ultimately it has to be paid for. And the model that the industry uses is a small transaction fee. And the more transactions you have, the more it adds up to.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Price. Really good example of why it's important for us to encourage people to continue using cash.
I have it in all the site meetings for the car park I've had so far. Everyone has tried to get us to put in 100% card machines, and I've said no to every single one of them. Retain the ability for people to pay by cash.
Perfect.
Cash does cost us money to bank. We have to, staff time to have it, put it through the counting machine, bag it up, take it to the bank. There's 2 members of staff for safety reasons to take it to the bank. The more banks that are closing, the more it's costing us to bank it. So we are, with the new banks, we're hoping to be able to pay in cash through the post office, but they don't take the volumes that we currently process. So we're going to have to work on that one.
Thank you.
But that's for another meeting.
Councillor Henderson.
Yeah, well, I was just going to suggest, and actually O'Connor's way ahead of me on this, that obviously lots of car parks now, people pay by their phone.
Oh yeah.
And that's obviously, I mean,
I
fees, I don't know. how would they stack up, but I would have thought that maybe.
I think it's an option. We had a company called Metric who provide a lot of car park payment machines. They also offered that as an option. There is obviously a charge for it, but we can have a look into that kind of thing. It's almost more convenient to just offer a card payment machine than if you've ever had to actually try and pay by phone. I remember I went to a cricket match in Taunton. I missed quite a lot of it because I was trying to pay for my parking. So, I don't have that app. I have to get a different one, or you have to phone this number,
Yep.
etc.
Well, not everybody has a smartphone.
Well, exactly.
The thing with cash, of course, is that, especially on the figures you're talking about for the car park, is that you need somebody to handle that cash.
Yeah.
By somebody.
Yes.
And also, there is always a percentage allowance annually for lost cash. And that can depend on multiple reasons for losing that cash. Whereas with car payments, there's no question where the money is. It's in your bank account.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Any more observations, questions? Points? Okay, are we happy with the wonderful,
I think, Your Worship, can I just check, Jane, what do you normally like them to resolve? That do they just note it? Do they resolve to accept it?
Approve it really rather than accept it. Yeah, it's like, we haven't added it up unless you want us to go through with a calculator. But yes, thank you very much.
So would someone perhaps like to propose that they're accepted?
Yes. Mike White?
I'm happy to propose we accept this income and expenditure account and balance sheet.
Thank you. Thank you. That's Margaret seconded. All in favour of passing? Perfect. Unanimous. Lovely. Well done, crew. Right, moving on. To consider the internal auditor's report and make provision to implement any recommendations. So,
Thank you, Your Worship. So this was provided as reading ahead of the meeting. So I hope everyone's had the opportunity to read it. In summary, the auditors felt that Glastonbury Town Council is operated in a correct manner. There were a couple of points that they highlighted where we could improve. So that's what we have to discuss this evening. So the first objective, there are a number of objectives that town and parish councils have to satisfy in terms of running correctly. The first objective that the internal auditor was of the opinion that they couldn't tick yes for, that we hadn't fully satisfied, was control objective C. And that is the objective that states that the town council, if I read it, that's the wrong one, if I can read it.
yes, please.
This authority assessed the significant risks to achieving its objectives and reviewed the adequacy of arrangements to manage these. Now, the reason that the internal auditor felt that they could not tick yes for that report, Glastonbury Town Council has assessed its significant risks to achieving its objectives. However, it did not review the adequacy of the arrangements to manage these in the council year. So what happened was the town council has an internal control document, a risk assessment of all of these potential risks. However, I did not bring it to a meeting during the council year for councillors to review and note. So that is where we have failed on that objective. Now, in terms of rectifying that, it is a very large document, and as you can imagine, as the town council gets more and more responsibilities, it's only ever going to get larger, and it is quite an onerous task to sit down, review it, update it, and think of all the risks and the potential mitigations for those risks for someone to sit and do that. There are software packages on the market specifically for town and parish councils. My own parish council uses one, I think, very successfully, where essentially you buy the software package. In the software, you tick the boxes of what your town or parish council does. And there is a bit more flexibility. It's not quite just tick boxes and export, but you tick the boxes of what you do, it highlights risks, you can add to risks, you can edit your mitigations to those risks, but essentially it does the bulk of the work for you because it's preloaded with activities and risks to those activities, and it saves an awful lot of time, officer time, making sure that that's up to date. We export a report that can then be brought either individually to committees where they only look at certain things, or it can be a larger report that's brought to full council. Now that piece of software is only, the latest price I could find was £110 plus VAT, which I can assure you in terms of cost for officer hours, etc., and the fact that once you've bought the piece of software, it is yours. There's no subscription. I thought that presented very good value for money, and my recommendation for ensuring that we don't fall down on Objective C again is to purchase that piece of software, and I will add into our governance cycle that during a municipal year, full council and the relevant committees receive a report of their risks for discussing and noting.
Gosh,
So that's my recommendation for
brilliant.
Objective C.
Thank you.
I don't know, Your Worship, whether you wish to take questions on that
Yes,
specific
I do.
one now, and then I'll talk about the second objective in a moment.
Do we want to do that first? Any questions on the software? Yes, Councillor Lukmandu.
It sounds a little bit like a box ticking exercise. It's all done for you. But I imagine we do need to put some thought into it ourselves as to what we actually consider.
Yes, absolutely. So within the software itself, you can edit your mitigations, for example. So I haven't personally used the software because it's for our parish clerk and my parish council and the various councils that use it. It's not just my parish council. You can edit it within the software, but then, yes, certainly when it is considered and reviewed by members around the table, it can then be edited, amended, added to. The actual exercise of bringing it in front of you all for noting is in itself a bit of a tick boxing exercise, but it is an important one, and that piece of software will make it much easier. And then once you've had that report in front of you and considered it, as I say, it can then be amended and added to. But it just makes the task of really thinking to the nth degree what is potentially a risk to a certain activity, and the fact it's scalable in terms of, for instance, we don't currently operate or manage any play facilities. However, when we do, there are lots of risks to a council's operations when you manage a play facility. This software has that ability. So if in the future, when the town council will take on more responsibilities under the new unitary authority, when they start asset and service devolution, it will make the task of ensuring that each year this document is up to date, particularly with the speed of change coming, a lot easier.
Thank you. Any more questions? Do we want to call for a vote?
There's some other issues on, don't there?
Yeah,
There's some other issues to discuss, isn't there?
There is, but
Sorry,
I'm
yeah,
just doing
so
it each one at a time.
I'm more than happy, however you want to do it, Your Worship. Someone
Okay.
could propose second and a vote be taken that is the solution to Objective C, or I'm more than happy to go over Objective H and our proposed plan for that one, and then members could consider a vote toward the end. It's completely up to yourself, Your Worship.
Okay, I take it they're both separate outcomes. They're not the same.
Yes, they're both separate objectives that we haven't fully fulfilled in the last year, and the mitigations for them are both different.
Are both different, yeah. Councillor Waite?
I'd be happy to propose that we delegate the £200 plus VAT to the town clerk to purchase it and set up the software.
Isn't it 100?
So the most recent price I found
Yes.
was £110 plus VAT, but the
Yeah.
design of the leaflet led me to believe that was perhaps a little bit out of date.
Okay,
It had
I understand. Thank you, yes.
word art on it.
Gotcha.
So the reason that my recommendation was to allow for up to £200 plus VAT was in case the price had increased since the most recent leaflet that I could find.
Perfect, thank you. So going back to your proposal, thank you.
That we allocate the money to the town clerk to purchase the software and set it up.
Do we have a seconder?
Yes, Councillor Lukmandu.
Councillor Kabandu, can we go to vote, please? All in favour of purchasing? Perfect, that is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right.
The
Moving on.
second control objective that we didn't fully satisfy this year, Your Worship, was asset and investment registers were complete and accurate and properly maintained. So the reason that we failed on that objective was the Town Council's asset register, although it had been updated following the previous year's auditor's recommendations, it was a different auditor this year who felt that the asset register wasn't as up to date as they would like to see, and they had identified that the Town Council had purchased around £7,000 worth of assets that they would have liked to have seen on the asset register that weren't on the asset register. It's quite a big piece of work because the Town Council has had various formats of asset registers over the years. The quality of its filing over the years has been a bit hit and miss. The content within the asset registers has been a bit hit and miss between different versions. For instance, there's a lot of assets that this Town Council has. Generally on an asset register you list the purchased price, but for instance, say the maces and a lot of the civic regalia that's incredibly old, we don't have a purchased price. There's an insured for value, so it is a case of going through the assets and making sure we have a single register that's up to date. Now, Jane and I spent a lot of time with the auditor going over what format they'd like to see it in. We have tasked Scarlett in the office with doing an up-to-date inventory of items that have been purchased. So this is now going into the solution to this problem. So Jane and I are going to continue working on the asset register, and you're going to get a draft of it at the July Finance and General Purposes Committee meeting. Scarlett has been tasked on an ongoing basis with monitoring an inventory of what we have and making sure that anything is flagged to update the asset register. So an example I'll give, the Staffing Committee authorised the purchase of 2 air conditioning machines for the offices last year. That wasn't on the asset register, but the auditor said, well, you would account for that as an asset, but you wouldn't say for a tower fan. £35 tower fan you wouldn't put on there, but a £700 air conditioning machine you would. But it wasn't on the asset register because we'd purchased it, used it, but hadn't thought, must add that to the list of assets. So that's where that failed. However, those internal controls that we've put in place, that Jane and I are going to work together on the asset register for the Finance and General Purposes meeting, based on the format the internal auditor would like to see and the additional assets that they identified that they wish to see on the asset register, and that on an ongoing basis we have a member of staff now tasked with monitoring what we buy, whether it should go on the asset register, and flagging that. That's our proposed mitigation so that we don't fail that objective again.
That's amazing.
It's also going back over and just checking that you haven't got rid of a piece of equipment or something.
Well, yes.
You're not using it anymore. That kind of thing. So it really is.
Yes, and
do it and leave it.
Can you say where it is
really
as well?
keep on top of it.
Whether it's in the Hobbit's kitchen or something under the stage. Yes, Councillor.
Yeah, I had one question that probably our town clerk can answer, and that is, a long time ago I used to do a lot of inspections on ships and things like that. And so one of the issues that came up every now and then was about depreciation of assets. So, for example, you could have, say, naval, £100,000 generator, 10% off per year to eventually it's worth nothing, but you might still have 40 or 50 years life out of it. So depreciation was one. And then because we're working with buildings, is there asset appreciation? So does it increase? And I think that would sort of fit neatly somewhere.
yeah, so I know Jane probably wants to jump in on that one.
We only record the purchase price, and when it comes to councils, you don't depreciate. You don't take that into consideration. You just, that's it. That's the purchase price,
Yeah.
or the insured value if you don't know the purchase price.
And we are seeking a new, I can't remember which meeting agreed it. I think it was April. It was either property and assets, or I think it was property and assets because it was insurance. We're seeking a new reinstatement valuation on the town hall, which is essentially the valuation of, say, touch wood, it doesn't happen. If it completely burned down and fell down, how much is it going to cost to have the place rebuilt? We're seeking a new reinstatement valuation on the town hall presently. We're getting quotes for that work to be done. that same meeting agreed not to yet do it for St Dunstan's House, but to seek a new reinstatement valuation after all of the works for the town deal project had been done. So those factors, of course, will factor in. But in terms of actual accounting, for instance, the town council paid £350,000 for St Dunstan's House. That is shown in the accounts that that's the value of the house. But I don't know, Jane, you might have another, you might have more info, whether, say, in 3 years we had it valued by an estate agent, they said it was worth £500,000. Do you change the figure in the accounts, or do you only account for what you purchased it for? Yeah.
But obviously the insured value.
Yeah.
So every year the insurance, it's index linked anyway, so the insured value on all the properties increases every year, but it's whether it's in, you know, in line with what's actually happening at the moment. So that's why obviously we're having a reinstatement value.
Yeah, but
Valuation, sorry.
The accounting guidelines that town and parish councils have to follow explicitly state that you don't account for depreciation of assets. You list the price you purchased it for, and that's it.
Don't think we can ever sell it off again. Thank you. And so can I just ask who out of the staff is going to be doing this?
In terms of monitoring and inventory and highlighting anything that should be added to the asset register, that will be Scarlett.
Scarlett, fabulous, thank you.
She's got a very keen eye for detail.
She does, doesn't she?
Connor, exactly what have you bought? What was in that package last week? Oh, it was only a USB stick, Scarlett. Oh, we don't need to put that on the asset register, but yeah.
Bless. She'll regret that one day.
I wouldn't say it's rare, but we don't often purchase things that would need to go on an asset register. It was just identified that in the last financial year that this was being looked at. Across the whole financial year, if the town council, you know, makes expenditure of several £100,000, that £7,000 worth of stuff should have gone on the list. As a percentage, it's a very small amount that got missed off that list, but those are our proposed solutions and improvements internally to make sure we don't fall down on that objective again. So if someone would like to propose that you accept that solution or that you note it, fine.
Perfect. Lochabandu is proposing that we accept the risk register and assessment in the July Finance General, yes?
Yes, yeah.
Anyone want to second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favour of accepting? Thank you. Zoe's out the room, but unanimous otherwise.
Yes.
£7,000 you're talking about, out of say 100,000. That is exactly the similar amount you can lose in cash handling, right? So you imagine the scenario when they come in and have a look at, well, where's this cash gone? 7,000. We don't know. You see what I mean?
Well, yeah,
record of where it's gone.
No, I can assure you, no cash here goes missing.
No, I'm not saying there is.
No, but no, I understand it's
cash
within that percentage of.
Well, so many businesses are going over to
Yeah.
because they don't have to recover it, or they don't have to make up a story about missing money.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Have we done the second? Members to receive and consider an updated asset register.
The report as well. They've agreed to. They've agreed to our recommendations. I think they have to note the whole report. Could you also, Your Worship, note that you've all received the internal audit report? That would be just a.
So we have, yes. Can we? We have all received the report. Thank you very much. Everyone, yeah. I will suffice. Everyone has seen. Brilliant. Received. Thank you. Great, thank you. Does that mean we've covered the last one as well? Asset register, that was it, yes?
Sorry, yes. So
Thank you.
I just wanted to highlight the two control objectives that we didn't fully satisfy in the internal auditor reports, and we've made provision to implement any recommendations, which was to update and improve the asset register and to improving our process for monitoring of significant risks.
Have we satisfied those?
In terms of everything for that agenda item, Your Worship, yes, we've considered the internal auditor's report and we've made provision to implement any recommendations.
Perfect. And I think, speak for all of us, we thank you very much for such swift solutions to those. Thank you, Connor and Jane. Right, item 6, to approve the annual governance statement for 22-23. Annual governance statement you all have.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is the document with the header Section 1, Annual Governance Statement 2022-23. There are 9 points that the Town Council must decide yes or no. So if I may read them out and talk about each one individually, if that's okay.
Perfect, thank you.
So point number 1, we had put in place arrangements for effective financial management during the year and for the preparation of the accounting statements. Now, as the responsible finance officer, is my recommendation that the Town Council ticks yes to that, because in our opinion and that of the internal auditor, that has been satisfied. So point 2, we maintained an adequate system of internal control, including measures designed to prevent and detect fraud and corruption, and reviewed its effectiveness. Again, it's our recommendation and that of the internal auditor that that box is ticked yes. We took all reasonable steps to assure ourselves that there are no matters of actual or potential non-compliance with laws, regulations and proper practices that could have a significant financial effect on the ability of this authority to conduct its business or manage its finances. Again, recommendation that box is ticked yes. We provided proper opportunity during the year for the exercise of electors' rights in accordance with the requirements of the accounts and audit regulations. Yes, we did. We advertised electors' rights at the right time, so our recommendation is that you tick yes for that box. Box 5, we carried out an assessment of the risks facing this authority and took appropriate steps to manage those risks, including the introduction of internal controls and or external insurance cover where required. Now you'll notice this is the box that doesn't yet have a tick on it in front of you, because each of these boxes is for councillors to decide whether this authority had or had not satisfied that. So Jane and myself with the internal auditor have recommended that for every other one, I'll go and read the other ones in a moment. Yes, we clearly have done. Now, there is a query over this box number 5, and it's probably largely down to semantics. If I can reread you objective objective C. This authority assessed the significant risks to achieving its objectives and reviewed the adequacy of arrangements to manage these. Now that doesn't match the exact wording of box number 5. We carried out an assessment of the risks facing this authority and took appropriate steps to manage those risks, including the introduction of internal controls and or external insurance cover where required. So the reason that we failed objective C is because councillors did not get the opportunity during the year to review and accept the risk assessment. So we failed that objective. However, it could be argued that this town council carried out an assessment of the risks facing the authority, because we have done on a recurring basis when we either undertake something new or there's a new event, etc. We did take appropriate steps to manage those risks, because in the risk assessments we highlight steps to be taken, and they are taken, and we haven't suffered from a risk in this year. And we have a set of internal controls, and we have external insurance cover where required. So the reason that we haven't ticked this box is because I would like members to consider whether you feel we have satisfied that, or whether the failure of control of objective C in your minds is enough of a reason to tick no in that box.
Has anyone got any comments on that? Do you want comments now?
Please do, Your
Thank
Worship.
you. I just have one which is, okay, so in the next column where it says yes means that the authority, and it says that the authority considered and documented the financial and other risks it faces and dealt with them properly. So that is, I would say that is what that is what was done by yourselves.
The only problem I have is if the external auditor asks for a minute.
Yeah.
You know, to actually say that the council has actually approved or considered the risk assessment, which didn't happen.
We
So
would
that
have
is the
to.
only thing that I'm thinking could happen if you don't. They say, well, hang on, okay, then where is it then? Prove it.
Of course.
And we can't do that because there isn't a minute. There's a minute actually saying we're going to do it, but we didn't actually do it.
Never actually happened, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor White?
Would it actually be a big issue if we have a no in that box?
It wouldn't be a big issue, no, Councillor White. It would. The external auditors would then look at what the reason for that failure was, but essentially the failure was that I didn't bring the document that we do have to a meeting in the council year for you guys to review and note/accept. That's the only reason we failed that control objective. We do have that risk assessment, it just wasn't brought to a meeting. So no, it wouldn't be a black mark upon the authority to tick that box, no. We just wanted to make sure that councillors were content with whatever answer went in that box.
Highlight it. Well, they probably will.
Yes,
and
probably
they could
will.
actually come back to me and say, well, what did you do then?
Yeah.
And then I can tell them.
Perfect. Perfect. Councillor Henderson?
Thank you. So we have the document in place, we just haven't seen it, and as Jane said, we can't say that we've done it because it's not limited, and that would look worse.
Yeah.
So I think we've got to leave it as a no.
Yeah. Did anybody? Yes.
I agree with what Steve said, because we, that those are the facts, so we must be truthful.
Perfect.
Yep.
So is that a recommendation and a motion? Yes, was seconded?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's a proposal. All in favour of the no then? Thank you. Are you unanimous? Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you. So if I could just read the rest of them, Your Worship. We maintained throughout the year an adequate and effective system of internal audit of the accounting records and control systems. So we arranged for a competent person independent of the financial controls and procedures to give an objective view on whether internal controls meet the needs of this smaller authority. So yes, we did. We had an internal audit and our accounts are looked at by an accountant. We took appropriate action on all matters raised in reports from internal and external audit. We've ticked that box yes, because we did follow the recommendations and implement improvements based on the last internal audit report. This internal auditor this year was a different person, and their interpretation of what an asset register should be was different. So we have ticked yes because we did follow the recommendations of the last internal audit report. This internal auditor just wanted further improvements, which we're now going to implement. We considered whether any litigation, liabilities or commitments, events or transactions occurring either during or after the year end have a financial impact on this authority and, where appropriate, have included them in the accounting statements. So we have disclosed everything that we should have about our business activity during the year, including events taking place after the year end if relevant. So that box is ticked yes. The last box, for local councils only, trust funds including charitable, in our capacity as the sole managing trustee, have discharged our accountability responsibilities for the funds, assets, including financial reporting, and if required, independent examination or audit. That's not applicable to this authority, so that's why it's ticked NA.
Brilliant, thank you.
So, if Your Worship, I know that you have all you've taken a vote on box number 5. If I could ask that you, if members are minded, to take a vote on boxes 1 to 4 and then 6 to 9 to accept our recommendation that they are ticked yes, then councillors have made the decision on each of these boxes, which is what you have to do.
Perfect, thank you very much, Connor. Would anybody like to propose that? Councillor White, fabulous. So that's 1 to 4 and then
6 to 9.
6 to 9. Well, yeah, 6 to 9. Anyone want to say second? Look, Andy got there again. Thank you very much. So all in favour of carrying this? Thank you very much, and unanimous again.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have to get you to sign a copy of this. Oh, I'll get you to sign that, sorry, after we've done
Yep.
the next agenda item, because they are together.
Thank you. Item 6? 7, thank you, we've done that one. Item 7, to approve the accounting statements. So that's the next page.
So the accounting statements is the box of a similar format, but it has a load of numbers in it. So these numbers are taken directly from the income, expenditure and balance sheet. They are added up in the ways that the note boxes require. They reflect, last year there was an amendment had to be made because we had to account for something in a different way, but that's reflected in this one, so there'll be no amendments to this one. But these numbers add up to what's in the income and expenditure and balance sheet that you've already approved. I don't know, Jane, whether you have anything else you want to...
No, the only thing is the fixed assets, although we were advised by the internal auditor that we got this 7,000 or nearly 8,000 increase in our assets, he actually said leave it for this year and
Yes.
include it in next.
Yeah, so...
Work on it and then we'll include it in next year.
Yeah, so this, if you think about it, this internal audit covers, is it the financial year or the council year?
It's 31st of March.
Yeah, so this is until the 31st of March, and they weren't in the asset register at that time. We hadn't added them, so it would be an unfair reflection if that amount was reflected in these figures. However, for our internal audit next year,
Yes.
it will be in the asset register, so that figure will change for next year, and that's based on the internal auditor's recommendation.
Brilliant.
So if there aren't any questions, Your Worship, if
Do we have any questions, please, for Connor?
opposed to approve them.
Nope. Can we move to approve? Anyone want to propose approval? Do we have a seconded? Thank you very much. Councillor Michael White, all in favour of approving? Thank you, councillors, that's unanimous. Lovely.
Thank you, Your Worship. If I could, Jane and myself will fill in the boxes with dates, etc. If I could ask you for your signature in that box. And then if I could also ask you for your signature in that box for the accounting statements. Excellent. Thank you very much. Also, the income, expenditure and balance sheet have been approved. Also, if I may, ask you to sign there and date there. It's the 28th of June.
Is that all of those?
Yep. Thank you, Your Worship.
So is that all of the...
The only thing, Your Worship, actions arising from the meeting.
Perfect. Point 8 then, actions arising.
So I'm going to check with the clerk of the Glastonbury and Bloom Committee about the press release about the new judges and thanking the old judges. I will purchase that software and have a draft risk register brought to the July Finance and General Purposes meeting, as well as working on the asset register again to bring that to the July Finance and General Purposes meeting. So they're the actions that I've listed from this meeting, Your Worship.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Just to note then, the date of the next ordinary meeting is Tuesday, the 11th of July. Fabulous. I declare the meeting closed.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Thank you, people. That was amazing work. Right, I'm going to leave this here if that's okay.